This is Avonelle Johnson Hawke's Oral History, Part 6, The College Years. So, we take up your story, and my father has just broken up with you.
Yes.
After how many years of going steady?
2.5 years.
And this was at the end of the summer before your freshman year in college, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
He broke my heart.
Okay, well, how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
It made me feel horrible. He was my love,
Yeah.
and I never loved anybody else.
Yeah.
And I was a young 17-year-old, and the love of my life had just taken his fraternity pin back.
Yeah. Now, first of all, you're 17, so you were actually pretty young to be going to college.
Well, I guess, I don't know.
I mean, well,
Most kids were 18.
18, yeah, and Dad was young going to college too, wasn't he?
Oh, he was just barely 17 when he went to college.
Yeah, so you were both young when you started college, yeah.
We didn't know it.
Yeah. Did you have anybody to confide in, to talk to about
Oh,
how hurt
yes.
you were?
My dearest friend from junior high school days, Sarah.
Okay.
She was my confidant.
Okay. And so, what was her attitude? Was she telling you to just get angry with him and forget him, or?
She was so angry with Dad. How could he do such a thing to my dear little friend Avonelle? Well, you know that. Remember a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So you just sit around and kind of, just kind of mourn together.
Yeah, mourn together. I even sat down. I never told anybody this before. Maybe I shouldn't tell anybody. Anyway, this young 17-year-old girl even sat down finally and wrote a letter to Dad and told him how much I loved him and how sad I felt that we had broken up.
Yeah.
And I never got any response to it.
Oh, so you sent it off.
But I sent it to him.
He didn't respond. Oh, that's cold. That's dark. So, was Sarah the only person you confided in?
As I remember, yes.
Now, my grandma, Dad's mother, stayed in touch with you, right?
Oh my goodness, she was so upset with her son. He went home that night, gave her my sweetheart pin he had taken back, and he gave it to her, and he said, "Here, you can have this, Mom." And she said, "Oh, what have you done?"
Oh, jeez. But she stayed in touch with you, right?
Oh yes, all through the years that we were broken up. We went to the movies together. She attended all of my piano recitals at the university. I'd go up on stage to play my solos, and I'd glance out in the audience, and there would be Mrs. Hawke. Yeah.
And did you ever talk about Dad when you were together, or was that kind of, that subject was off limits?
I don't think we ever talked about it, come to think of it.
But she knew what she was doing.
Mom was a wise woman.
She must have known something.
Mom was a very wise woman, but we loved each other.
Yeah.
Mom and I loved each other.
So you're off to college, you're heartbroken, but you're starting a whole new era of your life in college. And so what was that like? What were you majoring in?
I was majoring in music education, but the first 2 years were in general subjects, your English requirements, your humanities, social studies, and I studied piano courses every semester, piano and just the general basics for the first 2 years, and then I went into the music education studies.
Now at this time, Dad was also a music major.
Yeah.
So were you like running across each other all the time?
Oh, yes.
Constantly seeing him?
Yes.
And what was that vibe like when you'd see him?
It was terrible. My heart would just leap.
Yeah. But, I mean, you talk? Did you talk? Or just the basics, hi, and then move on?
Hi.
Yeah. There was never any kind of discussions or anything like
Well,
that?
no. The day after we broke up, I was looking at the bulletin board, and why would I remember these dumb things? The bulletin board in the hallway of the college, and all of a sudden I felt these two hands go around my waist, and it was Dad. And all of a sudden it dawned on him that we had broken up, and he just
Oh, that's weird.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty fresh.
That was cute.
What did he say?
Nothing. I don't remember. I don't remember that clearly.
Wow.
That was funny.
That must have been tough though, seeing him all the time.
Yeah.
And then you also pledged a sorority, right?
I beg your pardon?
You pledged a sorority.
Not that year.
Okay.
Not that year. Later.
Okay. But you were a pretty good student, right?
Yeah, I was. I could be a good student if I really applied myself. Yeah. But sometimes I was careless. I never practiced enough for piano lessons, and school was pretty easy for me.
Now, were you continuing with your private lessons?
No, no.
So all of your music study now shifted to the University of Arizona.
Right. I studied with the head of the piano department, Julia Rebell. Wonderful woman, wonderful pianist.
But you said you usually didn't practice enough between.
Well, I should have practiced more. Yeah. Sight reading and piano was maybe a little too natural for me.
Yeah.
And so I relied on that.
Didn't have to work hard.
Yeah.
But she knew.
Oh, she knew it. She was a wise woman.
Now, at this time, were you also taking gigs? Were you taking gigs to be paid to accompany people? And
Oh, I had to.
shows?
I had to work part time.
But there was playing piano though.
Well, that yeah. I played for weddings. I played for in trios and quartets for banquets, and Hartley D. Snyder was my major professor during those years, and he was very active in the small town, and he knew I played by ear and I could change keys if I needed to, and so he had a job on Sundays at the Armory Park for a community sing every Sunday, and he'd pass out all these song sheets with words to the people in the park, and they'd all gather, and he'd always ask me to go down and be his accompanist, and I got $5 every time I did.
That's good money.
It was good money.
How many people would show up for these community sings?
I don't remember exactly, maybe 50.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have fun singing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Old things like Let Me Call You Sweetheart and Down by the Old Mill Stream and junk like that was easy. And he'd say, that's a little high for him, lower the key, and so I'd have to lower the key, and it was fun.
Yeah, that's great. And he'd just do this just for the community. He wasn't going to try to teach them anything, or just
What?
He wasn't going to try to teach them anything.
Oh, no.
This was together.
This was just a fun activity.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. This was Sunday afternoons.
Yeah, Sunday afternoons.
After church, people would come.
Down at the Armory Park. That was down by the old Carnegie Library, and down near Safford, where I went to junior high school.
Okay. Yeah. Now, at this time, about how many people went to the University of Arizona? Do you know roughly how many students there were?
I've always said, and I don't know how accurate I am, but I think I'm in the ballpark, about 2,000 to 2,500.
Okay. So it was probably smaller than your high school.
No, it was a little larger.
Just a little larger than your high school.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because I know my high school was 2,400, I think.
Well, see, we had about 1,500 in
Nice.
my high school.
So actually going to college wasn't that much different.
Well,
than
we
going to
thought
high school in a way.
we thought it was, but no.
Yeah. Saw all the same people.
It was 4 blocks from my house.
Yeah. Just a little larger.
Uh-huh.
Basically saw the same people.
Yeah.
The same people went to high school with.
Well, we met a lot of new people.
Sure.
The U of A drew a lot of students from the Midwest, Illinois, Ohio, a lot. And then it drew a lot of students from California.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we had a lot of different students.
And how much was it? Do you remember what the cost was?
It was either $25.95 a semester for basic enrollment, or $29. I never can remember. There's a $4 difference there, but it was around $30 a semester.
You're 98. You're excused for not remembering that from roughly 78 years ago.
Now, that didn't include extra fees for labs. You had to pay extra fees for labs. And of course, music was much more expensive because I had to pay for my piano lessons extra. I think it was $50 a semester for 2 units.
Wow, so that's double the tuition.
Yeah, that added to the tuition. Of course, I had to buy my music for what I needed and our books. So that was the basic tuition just to go to school there. Was about $29, $30.
Okay, so you add this, add that. You're probably paying $100 a semester.
You got it right on. You nailed it. About $105 a semester it cost me. When I saved around $300 every summer working, it paid for 2 semesters and all my extras.
Right. But you were an expensive student, and there's people who were just getting a liberal arts education. It was much cheaper for them.
Much cheaper.
So you worked before your freshman year to get the money to go to school?
I lied about my age, and I started working my senior class day in high school. I started working that day at full time, 8 hours a day, at the telephone company.
Okay, doing what?
Number, please. Thank you. The line is busy.
Okay, well, a lot of people who may be watching this may have no idea what you're talking about, because back then how did the telephones work? If I want to make a call, why were you involved in phone calls?
Well, it was a building, and it had big boards.
Big switchboards.
With holes in it, and you stuck your little plug in. It had a long cord, and you could stretch it out and plug it in when the light came on.
What did the light mean?
That would be the fact that you lifted their receiver and they wanted to make a call.
Okay. So then you're wearing a pair of earphones?
I'm wearing earphones, and I'm sitting on a high stool that swivels, and I plug it in and I say, number, please.
Okay, so they're not dialing. They're just picking up the phone. There's no dialing.
Yes.
Then why are you asking for a number?
No, I guess there isn't.
Right. Okay.
Let me think. I never thought of that, Frank.
Right. So the phone at Uncle Maynard's, did it have a dial on it?
It seemed like it did.
Okay, well anyway, so the light goes on, meaning that customer who has a phone has picked up the receiver. And so you plug in and you ask them what number they want to connect to.
They want to call.
Okay, and then what do you do?
And then you go to that plug for that number, and you have to learn where they all are.
Right.
And if it tests on the edge of the hole a certain way, then you know it's busy. You're not allowed to go in and listen, but you know it's busy. So you come back to the party calling and you say that I'm sorry, the line is busy, and you had 2 weeks of training, and you had to learn all of these phrases verbatim.
Right. And
you weren't allowed to listen into any calls. So, of course, Dad and I had broken up.
Right.
And I knew that his plug was over here, and it was 1422. And so when that came on, I always wanted to take that. There were people next to me who could take that too. And so I'd always take that. And then I always wanted to listen in so badly.
So you could listen in.
Oh, I could have, but if I had been caught at it, I would have been fired. Yeah, no, it was strict.
So the light goes on, put the plug in, you say number please, they give you the number, and then the number's available. How do you connect? How did you connect?
Just plug that cord in to that number.
But then
I'm trying to think how that worked.
How you connected them.
Interesting.
Because you have to continue to use your cord.
There might have been 2 cords. I don't remember.
Okay.
That's interesting. I never thought of that.
Okay. But that's how the phone system worked. And then there are also party lines, right?
Oh yeah, Dad had a 1422W.
Yeah. But that meant that more than one household would use one line,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So if that light went on, it could be
someone else.
the person who's sharing their line could be them too.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, interesting. So you did that all summer long?
All summer, 5 days a week. I made $11 a week. And I saved every dime.
Right. $11 a week, though, that wouldn't be enough for two semesters of college.
Well, what I did was work all the holidays during the summer. I worked 4th of July, Memorial Day, and you got double time for holidays and time and a half for Sundays. And I took all the extra.
Okay.
So it was a basic 11 a week plus these extras if you worked them.
So you worked hard. You worked a lot.
Yeah, I worked split shifts too. There'd be a split 11s and split 12s, where I'd have time in between half of it off, and then I'd have to go back. A lot of times I worked until 11 at night or 12 at night.
And how did you get there? How did you
Walked.
Well, I was close enough to your house.
Hmm?
How close was it to your house? How long a walk was it?
Well, it was from, you know where Tucson High School is. We lived between 4th and 5th Street, just 3 blocks from Tucson High. And that was about 10, 12, 14 blocks.
Okay, that's a good walk.
And I had to go through the subway, walk through the subway.
And so you were doing that at 11 o'clock at night sometimes?
Yeah, and midnight.
And you never felt
Only
insecure?
one time did I feel a little bit threatened, and that was when I heard footsteps behind me about midnight when I was walking through, and I just didn't turn to see who it was. I just hurried, and nobody was going to hurt me then. We were amazingly safe during those years.
Different times, yeah.
Different times.
Now, how did you get that job?
Well, you know, my aunt and uncle, I was living with them, and their second son was a surgeon in Tucson, a doctor. And he happened to be the surgeon or the doctor that was hired by the telephone company to take care of anything that happened at the telephone company. And he knew the head chief operator, Mrs. Jerko. Wasn't that a name? And he went to her and he said, my little cousin is graduating from high school. She wants to go to college and she needs a job. But she's only 17. And she's going to come down and I'm going to ask her to lie to you and tell you that she's 18. But he said, I'm wondering if you will make an exception and hire her. She's very capable. And so sweet little Mrs. Jerko said, send her in. So I didn't know my cousin had done this. So I went in and I was so scared because I had been taught all my life, don't lie. And so she asked me how old I was, and I said, 18. Well, when was your birthday? And oh, that just threw me.
Just had to add a year.
I wasn't prepared for that. But I remember being so shaky and so scared when I was interviewed for the job. But she gave me the job only because my cousin had intervened, I know. But I really worked hard and I was a good operator. So good that even though I was summer help, they put me on the toll switching, which was long distance.
Oh, okay.
And it was summer when we had our big monsoon storms and all the phones would go out of order. Oh, that was a headache. But it was a good job. I felt very secure with it.
So when somebody wanted to make a long distance call, it would be the same thing. They would just pick up, the light would go on, someone would plug in, they say, we'll make a long distance call, then they'd turn it over to you?
Yeah, they'd switch it over to a special group of operators who handled the overseas.
And then you dial up the toll person in a switch room somewhere where they were calling. It's like if they wanted to call Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You would connect with Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Tell them the number. And then they
right.
Okay. All right. Now, for the entire city of Tucson, all the operators were in this room. And so how many?
Oh, it was a huge room with many boards.
Okay.
And you would be assigned to different ones.
Okay. And they were all girls, I'll bet.
All girls.
Interesting.
I never thought of that.
And how many girls? How many girls would you say were in the room at one time taking care of all the phone calls?
I wouldn't
So,
know.
I mean, with tens, hundreds?
Oh, more than that. More than 10, but certainly not 50.
Okay, between 10 and 50. For the entire city of Tucson.
The whole city of Tucson.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah, I worked there 2 summers.
Okay. Now, so you're in your freshman year, and you're taking the basics, the English and that sort of stuff. And then Pearl Harbor happens in your freshman year, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So talk about that. How did you hear about that, and how did it change things at the university? How did things change after that?
Well,
First, talk about the day, how you heard about it. And
it was on a Sunday, and after church, I was walking over to a girlfriend's house who lived on 5th Street behind the university, and I passed by Mary and Joe Blaze's house. They were railroad people. Mary was sitting on the front porch, which many people did in those days, and we greeted each other as I walked past. And she said, "Avonelle, did you just hear? We've been attacked at Pearl Harbor." I said, "What? Where's Pearl Harbor?" I had never heard of it. And that's how I found out.
Now, do you recall that prior to that happening, had there been a lot of talk about maybe America going to war or anything like that? Was that part of your sort of existence prior to that, where there was awareness of it, or was this like the first time you became aware that, oh geez, there's conflict out there and we might be involved?
I'm so embarrassed. I knew nothing about it. It was, communication was so limited in my day, and I knew nothing about it.
So did Uncle Maynard, did they get a newspaper every day?
I'm sure we did. I don't remember it.
You don't remember reading the newspaper or anything? So your only information came through basically conversations with people, really? You would listen to the radio a lot at that time?
Not much.
So there weren't any radio programs? Because you talked about growing up listening to the radio.
Yeah,
right?
kid stuff.
Yeah, but then once you got to Uncle Maynard's, it kind of...
We didn't listen to the radio.
Okay, because you were so involved with your friends. And, Okay, interesting.
There was an incident on the campus that day. Some people, I don't know whether they ever found out who they were, raised the Japanese flag on our flagpole in front of our the entrance of our university. The rising sun raised the flag on there and cut the lanyard so it couldn't be brought down. And the next day when we all went to campus, there it was, the Japanese flag on our campus.
Well, that must have been shocking.
It was a horror. It was really a very uncouth, it just wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, and for a little town, there probably couldn't have been 35,000 people in the
Yeah.
city. To have somebody willing to do that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, we all wondered if it was just somebody who didn't have the good sense to know that that kind of joke wasn't acceptable.
Well, they had to go out and find a Japanese flag.
Yeah, it might have been a homemade one. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Dad was working, he had to work while he went to school too, so he was working as weekend manager of the Standard gas station at the entrance of the campus. And he was shocked when he went to work and saw the Japanese flag on the campus.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, how did life change at the university? I mean, all of a sudden were lots of men disappearing and going off, and other men coming to, what was it like?
You know, it's strange, Frank. Maybe it's the way God created me. We're all uniquely different. And I don't know whether everyone else felt like I did or not. They seemed to. We just went on with our life. The boys went off to war. It was expected. You felt like it was wrong if they didn't go. They needed to be red, white, and blue patriotic American boys to defend their country. And off they went, and the campus changed in that a lot of military uniformed young men appeared. The gym was changed into a dormitory for Navy officers who were brought into the service. These were professional men who already had graduated from college and had started their professions, and then were inducted into the military because their skills were needed. And they put up bunks in the bear down gym and billeted their Navy, what they called the 90-day wonders. In 90 days they indoctrinated them into the Navy and then sent them out to their assignments.
Okay, so
Dennis Day was one of them.
Dennis Day, okay.
Yeah.
So the Department of War, for some reason, had chosen University of Arizona as a place to do this.
A training place.
Yeah.
Tucson was a training place because of our weather,
Okay.
especially for the Air Corps. We had airfields all around us. And then also the young men who were in college at the time war broke out, who were engineering students, were put in uniform. And they were allowed to finish their engineering degree, but they were in uniform being paid for it. And then they had to serve after they graduated, a certain number of 2 or 3 years service to pay the government back. So we had the Army engineers on campus marching to their classes, just like regimented military people in their uniforms. We had the 90-day wonders.
They were in uniform as well?
They were in Navy uniform. Oh yeah, most of them were taken in as captains. Or ensign. No, I think they were Lieutenant JGs and captains. I don't remember just what. And then, what else? We had the engineer.
Then you had the guys in ROTC, like Dad.
Oh yeah, they were still there, but they weren't really taken in on active duty until 42 or 3.
Right.
But they were, of course, they were in uniform when they went to their ROTC classes. The fraternity houses were turned into dormitories. It changed our campus.
Yeah, it sounds like. So, you're single,
Yeah,
right? All these men in uniform running around.
right.
What was the dating scene like?
It was quite active. Yeah, and there were different groups that had dances for the servicemen, and the co-eds would go. I dated several over the time. Of course, I worked at Davis-Monthan for 2 summers after that for the civil service, and met servicemen and dated some of them. Benny Lupica was one of the ones I dated for 10 weeks while he was there. His son became an author.
Mike Lupica.
Yeah, Mike Lupica. I dated Benny for 10 weeks. He proposed when he came back, and I said, no, thank you. I'm still in love with my high school sweetheart.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. That's an interesting story. Yeah.
And I dated several of them along the way.
And were they all quite nice and respectful?
Well, Frank, looking back, I realized the girl has a big responsibility when she dates. She can either let the guy know that he can have anything he wants, or she can either by her own manner and her own personality let him know, let's just have a good time and take me home, and it's been a nice evening. And I was never forced in anything that was improper. Never. And I was so thankful. It wasn't just my personality, it was God protecting me. I always have felt that the hand of God was on me, leading me. And if I was going to go tempted down the wrong path, he didn't allow it. He just turned me the other way. It was never, to tell you the truth, Frank, letting a boy have his own way with me was not attractive to me. I was just as emotional and romantic as any other girl, but they could just go so far. It was not something that I felt was proper and that I felt was good for me. I don't know where it came from except God.
But were you also dating local boys at the same time?
Yes, Bob Long of Long Realty. His special love had gone to Stevens College, so she wasn't here, so I was a good substitute for some dates. And Smitty, Frank Smith, he was a friend of Dad's. We dated. Bill Lowell, he was a neat young man. He was killed on Iwo Jima. Yeah, some nice boys I grew up with, went to high school with. We dated, but they all knew I loved Babe.
So when you dated, what was a typical date like?
We either go to the movies, or at that point I was allowed to go to the Pioneer Hotel to dance on the weekends at the ballroom. And we'd go up there and dance. And that was kind of hard once in a while because I'd see Dad with another date.
Oh.
But I dealt with it. And,
it sounds like you dealt with it pretty well.
Yeah. And I should have asked him. I never asked him how he felt about seeing me with somebody else. Strange.
Yeah.
So
Pioneer Hotel, so who would they have bands coming through town, touring through?
No, they'd be a local. We had a great big band in Tucson. Johnny, what was the name of the band? It was a fabulous band. They played all the big band charts.
Okay.
They were good. Then they played at the Pioneer. And then we had a fabulous band that played out at the Blue Moon Ballroom, which was at the edge of town.
The Blue Moon Ballroom.
The Blue Moon Ballroom. It was the greatest ballroom in the Southwest.
Really? Where was it in town?
It was where Townhouse is now at Drachman and Oracle.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blue Moon Ballroom.
The Blue Moon. That was going strong when Mom and Dad were young.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any of the big bands coming through at that time?
I don't remember them coming through at that time, no.
Now, you talked before about really never going to a restaurant when you were a kid growing up. At this time, were you being invited to restaurants, nice meals and things like that?
When I was in college and dating some maybe a little older men because they were Navy men, I remember being taken to the Pioneer Hotel dining room, and that was very elegant and sumptuous for me. That was interesting. And to Santa Rita, I remember going to the Santa Rita Hotel dining room. Really no other restaurants but those two.
And these were the 90-day wonders, some of them?
Yeah, and you had to be very careful with them because they were professional men who were already out of college, older, and the university required that they were registered with the university, the whole list of them, and their marital status or single status, so that the co-eds could go and find out. No, they protected us that way.
That's good.
So you could find out if they were married or not.
Did they know they were referred to as 90-day wonders? Did they
I don't know.
As 90-day wonders?
I don't know, but that's what we all called them. Yeah.
So you're having a good time?
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah. And then at some point you pledged a sorority?
Yeah, I pledged a sorority, and
which one?
Alpha Phi. And I pledged that one because my best friends, there were 3 or 4 of my best friends from high school days that were in the Alpha Phis. And they were my kind of girls. My relatives were all Thetas and Gamma Phis. But I fit in with the girls in Alpha Phi, and my best friend Sarah was an Alpha Phi. At the time it seemed so important. I look back now and I really didn't have time for it. I was accompanying music students on my free hours from class, and I when the girls would be sitting on the floor playing bridge after lunch, I'd be rushing back to the campus to play for a voice lesson or something. But I made some good lifetime friends there.
And it sounds like you were quite busy. I mean, earning extra money. It sounds like you were quite.
Oh,
demand.
yeah.
You were very much in demand.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was a busy girl.
Now, at that time, did almost all the girls and boys pledge fraternities and sororities?
It was much more popular then than it is now.
Yeah, it was very common.
Much more important to the kids than it is today.
Would you say half the students were in a sorority or fraternity?
I really don't know, but probably close to it. Dad was in a fraternity.
Right.
His brothers were, and none of us could afford it, but we did.
So what was sorority like? First of all, did you have to pay to be part of the sorority?
Oh yeah, you had to pay to join, and you had to pay dues every month. What was nice about being in one was that I always went. The sorority house was near was just a couple of blocks from the campus, and I went over there for lunch every day, and that was nice. And they had a grand piano, and I played the piano, and that was fun. The girls enjoyed that. I went to a reunion years and years and years and years later. One of the Udall girls was an Alpha Phi, and I said, she was younger than I. She was about 2 or 3 years younger. And so I went up to her and I said, I'm Avonelle Johnson Hawke. I said, I'm sure you don't remember me. I was older than you in the house. And she said, I sure do. You used to sit at that piano and I used to be so entranced. I thought that was funny.
Well, I mean, setting aside all modesty, they must have thought, oh, that's Avonelle. She's the musical genius.
Oh, yeah, they probably thought that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Well, we had another good piano player there that was in music ed, and that was Peggy Cowell. Peggy and her husband and kids visited us when we were stationed in Omaha. Yeah, she was a piano major.
So you'd all have a nice sit-down lunch every day?
Oh yeah, very. And it was very nice. We had a house mother, Lady Lou, and she was always at the head of the table.
Lady Lou.
Lady Lou. And she lived at the house, in a room in the back of the house. And she was a delightful woman, but you had to be very proper. When you went into the dining room to sit down for lunch, you always greeted her at her place at the table and said hello to her, and then sat down. And then you always asked, may I be excused, to Lady Lou when you got up. It was much different from today.
And was there proper attire? Was there a dress code?
Oh, we could never wear pants or shorts, except on weekends and in the house.
And who did the cooking?
They had a chef.
Do you remember her name or his name?
His name, and they'd have college kids making extra money being servers.
Was that kind of funny sometimes?
In fact,
see a friend of yours serving you at lunch?
Yeah,
that could be funny?
yeah. In fact, Gregory Peck, or one of the major movie stars, was a hasher. They called him hashers at the Gamma Phi house, the Gamma Phi sorority house, when he was in school.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
So you might see a friend of yours.
Oh yeah.
Or classmates.
I never did.
Lunch.
I never did, but you could. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And so other than going to lunch there, and then were there sorority activities that you participated in?
Oh yeah. Different ones during the year. I was always there for dinner on Monday night because that was meeting night. So I'd have dinner there and go to meeting. And then, of course, my first year I was in the house, I had to go to study table every Monday night. That was a requirement.
Now, you said you didn't pledge when you were a freshman? You pledged when you were a sophomore?
When I was a second semester sophomore.
Second semester sophomore? So was that common, or were you kind of late?
Oh, a lot of kids waited.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have the money to join when I first started college, but when I worked those that 6 months before I went back to school, my sophomore year, I had enough money to join. I seem to think it was important. Looking back, it really wasn't.
And then, what other activities did the sorority have that you participated in?
Oh, they'd have tea dances in the late afternoons a couple of times a year. And we made a float for homecoming. The usual stuff.
Now, was there a pledging process? Kind of.
Oh yeah, you had
to go through a little bit of hazing or whatever.
Not really real hazing, no, not in the sorority.
Now, wasn't there
you had to make your grades.
Yeah. Wasn't there a custom that the freshmen had to go up and paint the A on A Mountain and do all that kind of? What was that like? What was the kind of the onboarding process?
I was not part of that because I was working. But the freshmen took buckets of whitewash, and I think the juniors, I don't remember what upperclassmen went up, and they made the kids whitewash the A on A Mountain. And then freshmen, there was always one day, it was a Thursday, why I remember that, I don't know. There was always one day a week that the girls were supposed to wear green socks, and the boys were supposed to wear green beanies. If you were a freshman. Stupid.
And wasn't there like some activity for all the freshmen at the beginning of the year, like something, they call it something days or something? Anyway.
Yes, there was orientation.
Yeah. And social activities around that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, at some point you changed your major, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
When was that? At what point did you change?
Well, I went to college for a year and a half. And then I decided to drop out my second semester and work my sophomore year. So I got a job with civil service out at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And
when you say job with civil service, what exactly were you doing?
I was working in the subdepot supply office at Davis-Monthan, which was working in the Twix office, the messages that came in. And I was routing the messages and making copies of them and just working in general office work.
So you quit school to do that?
What?
You quit school to do that?
Right. Took the bus out to Davis-Monthan every morning and worked all day. Saved my money for 6 months. And when I started back to school, my aunt talked to me and she said, "You're wasting your time and your money taking music. You'll never have a job after you finish. It's a waste of time, waste of money. I think you should change your major and you should take business, get into the BPA college, Business and Public Administration. You'll have a lot of chance for employment then." I didn't want to do it, but I had been raised so submissive. I can't believe that I did what she asked. And when I went back to school, I majored in Business and Public Administration.
Well, first of all, when you quit and went to work at Davis-Monthan, were you fully intending to just work for 6 months and go back, or were you thinking, I'm done with school?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I always had a desire to get my degree, but I don't remember that. I just quit. I was disgusted. I was unhappy. I wanted to move out.
You were disgusted with school or with life or what?
I was disgusted with school. I was disgusted with living at my aunt and uncle's house, but I didn't know how to get out of it. It was just a real inner turmoil I had in me that I needed to do something.
Yeah, I could understand feeling constrained at your aunt and uncle's house. That's normal for a 19-year-old girl, right?
Right.
What about, was there something about school that was bothering you?
Well, I don't recall hating school at any point, but I don't recall what my attitude was about school at that point.
So it was mostly a personal thing?
Yeah, mostly personal turmoil.
And were you wanting to move out because you were now making money? Were you going to move out?
Well, I was going to move in with my girlfriends and her family. She was still living at home with her parents, and I was going to live with them. and rent a room there with her. And my aunt talked me out of it, which I look back and I'm surprised. And she said, no, she said, if you want to be more independent, you can pay us some rent every month. And while you're not going to school, she said, if you go back to school, you don't have to pay us rent. And so that's what I did.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because that shows two aspects of your aunt. One was she was concerned about you being able to get a job and support yourself after college.
Right.
She certainly didn't expect you to just find a man and become dependent. So that was kind of modern of her.
It was.
You know, to just have that expectation and want you to be able to do that on your own.
It was.
Right? And the second thing, wanting you to stay with them, showed how she really cared about you.
Yeah. Looking back, I can understand that.
Yeah. Because if she really didn't like you, she would have said, "Go."
Oh, well, go. I'll be glad to be rid of you.
Yeah. That's both of those things kind of.
It's looking back, it's a nice thing to see.
Yeah. And how modern she was in the sense of wanting to prepare you to be independent.
Right.
It's interesting. Yeah. So you end up and now you enroll in College of Business and Public Administration. What courses did you take and how long did that last?
Introduction to Business with Dr. Schmidt. 7:40 every morning. Shorthand I took. I didn't have to take typing. I already knew how to type. What else did I take?
Bookkeeping? Accounting?
No, didn't take it. Not the first year. Those are the only two I remember right now off the top of my head.
And were you totally done with your music during this year, or were you?
I wasn't taking any music.
But you were continuing to take little jobs and stuff? Or?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow. And so how did that end? I mean,
Well, I got 30 credits in the BPA college on my transcript. Only, I guess, I don't know, maybe 6 units were any good for graduation as electives. So at the end of that year, I said to my aunt, I cannot go on with this. I am not the least bit interested in being in business. I want to go back to music, so I did.
Okay. So how this made your college career, it extended your college career. You didn't graduate 4 years.
Oh no, 5.5.
5.5, okay. So at this time now, Dad, at what point does he leave to go on active duty?
I think Dad went on to active duty at, Frank, I think it was 1942.
He left Tucson.
Well, and then they came back and housed them.
Right, but I'm talking about the first time he left to go to Fort Riley, Kansas, probably about 42.
You know, I'm not sure it was 42 or 43.
I think it's probably 43.
Yeah.
What was that dynamic like? Did he seek you out?
No, he just left.
Just left. Interesting. Didn't hear from him?
No.
Did you, when he left, did you notice it? Was it a sudden?
No, I don't remember it being sudden or anything. He just disappeared.
Didn't see him around.
Uh-uh.
Now, you knew his brothers. Were you in contact with
They
them?
were all gone already.
Gone, yeah. Okay. Or his friends?
They were all gone too.
Yeah. Okay.
The men were gone.
So now you're back in the College of Music or Music Education, and now you're taking your last 2 years of that.
Yeah.
Right. How does that change? You just taking more music courses now and
education courses? Music education courses.
Okay.
Educational psychology, tests and measurements. Yeah.
Now, could you have majored in just the fine arts and piano, as opposed to music education?
Yes.
Why did you choose music education as opposed to?
It had more possibilities in the future
for employment.
For me.
Yeah. Otherwise, you would have had to make a living playing the piano.
Yeah.
Okay. But there were people who did that.
I guess I didn't know any. Obviously, there were.
Okay, so it was that large a community that the students who were just taking music for music's sake, maybe pianists, you didn't know them? They were.
Yeah, I knew them. Yeah, we all mixed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were working the first 2 summers, the summer before your freshman year, the summer after your freshman year at the telephone company, and then the summers between your sophomore, junior, and third, fourth years at Davis-Monson,
Yeah.
right? And then there was a summer where you worked somewhere else.
The summer of '45, when the war was over in Europe and Japan, I ended up as a piano player in an all-girls dance orchestra at Lake Tahoe, which was amazing. I can't believe I did that. We were horrible.
I don't believe that. How did that come together?
In the music school, we were all very close-knit. We all knew each other well. And there were 2 other music school gals that I knew well. One was Mary Pat Hall, and she was a Tucson girl, had gone to high school here, was in Dad's class in high school. She was a musician in the music school, working her way through college. And there was Lois Gordner, and Lois was a music student from Bisbee Warren area. Her father, I think, was a lawyer up there in the Bisbee Warren area. And Lois had a real great voice, and was a violinist. And I did not have a job coming up for that summer, and I was really concerned about it. But I was spending 2 weeks up on the Indian reservation with my friend Irene, whose father was superintendent of the Apache Indian reservation. And we were going to be in our pastor's wedding at the Methodist Church. So we were going to make our wedding, our bridesmaids' gowns while we were up there that 2 weeks with her mother helping us. And while I was up there at White River, Arizona, my aunt called, and no, Mary Pat called. Yeah, my friend Mary Pat from the music school. And she said, Avonelle, I've got a job for you this summer. And I said, oh, what? She said, playing the piano in an all-girls dance orchestra at Lake Tahoe. I said, oh, my aunt won't let me go. I knew immediately. And here I am, 21 years old. And I said, my aunt won't let me go, I know. And she said, no worry, my mother has already talked to your aunt. And she has said that you can go up with me to Lake Tahoe and play in the orchestra. I said, I don't believe it. So I came back, was in the wedding. Mary Pat's mother made our outfits that we were going to wear when we played. They were peasant skirts and Mexican blouses. And got our train reservations, and the 3 of us girls went by train to San Francisco, and then changed trains and went up to Lake Tahoe. And what an amazing thing for me to do by myself. I'd never been by myself traveling. And
I think the only place you'd ever been outside of Tucson was El Paso.
oh, no. We had gone back to Washington, D.C. several times by car to see my cousins. No, we had traveled across the country. But I'd never been alone without adult supervision, and I'm 21 years old. Can you imagine? I had a blast. We got off the train in Tahoe City and took a bus to the hotel, Tahoe Tavern Hotel, and they housed us on the 3rd floor, the employees. So Mary Pat and Lois and I shared a great big room and a bath together, and we met the other 2 girls that were going to be in the orchestra with us. One was a girl named Roberta, a redhead, and she had gone to the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. She was a very fine musician, and she was a lovely young woman. And then we met the other one. There were 5 of us. Betty from San Francisco. What a rooty-toot girl she was. Played her violin flat all the time. She had been around the corner. Believe me, her language was not the best. We soon separated. It became Roberta and Mary Pat and Lois and myself at a table in the employees' dining room, and then Betty found her group. But that was the summer. We had.
So the instrumentation you played piano.
I played piano.
Go ahead.
Mary Pat played string and percussion. Lois sang and played string, and Roberta played string, and Betty.
They played string. They were playing.
You were all string. Mostly strings.
But you talking about violin?
Violin and I guess Roberta played her cello. I can't imagine at a dance orchestra, but she did.
That's an odd instrumentation.
Yeah, it was.
No horns.
We sounded odd.
And so you just play the popular music of the day?
We played every night, Tuesday through Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
We had Saturday night, we had Sunday until Tuesday evening off.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an odd combination of instruments. Who did the arrangements?
We had charts. I don't
you?
remember what charts they were, but they were regular charts
Okay.
that we played.
Interesting.
I think we must have sounded terrible. I don't know.
It's called the Tahoe Tavern Hotel.
Tahoe Tavern Hotel.
Tahoe Tavern.
Tahoe Tavern.
Okay.
It was a beautiful hotel.
Right on the lake?
Right on the lake.
South Shore?
Right on the lake.
Yeah. And how many weeks were you there?
10.
10 weeks. And do you remember what you were paid?
$35 a week, union pay.
Okay. You had to join the union.
Yep, had to join the union.
Okay, and that was plus room and board.
Well, they gave us our room and board, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And did you see any celebrities or anybody?
Well, Somerset Maugham was there. Randolph Scott and his wife were there. They had a dance instructor that came from San Francisco, Tommy. He took residence there for the 10 weeks. They had a fortune teller that was a resident there for anybody who wanted to partake of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lovely hotel.
Didn't you see Edward G. Robinson?
Well, I saw him at Calneva when I went one evening to the border and watched them gamble in Calneva. You know, he wasn't at Tahoe.
And then you dated some boys there, right?
Oh, yeah, there were a bunch of us young employees. Most of the employees came from Pasadena Junior College or were just between high school and college. And they waited on our tables at the employees' dining room. And they had professional waiters in their main dining room, but we had kids waiting on us. I dated a boy up there. He was a lot of fun. He sounded just like Johnny Mercer. And Lois dated a boy up there. I don't remember if Mary Pat did or not.
And they were working in the hotel?
They were working in the laundry. Part-time employees, yeah, like the rest of us.
Right. And then later on he sent you a letter, didn't he?
Oh, do I have to tell that story?
Yes, you do.
Oh, gosh. That was unreal. The boy I dated off and on, when I say dated, we'd take off and go downstairs to the employees' rec room, and they had a bowling alley and they had a movie theater, and we'd go do things like that on the property. And Lee, was his name Lee? I think his name was Lee. Nice kid, fun. We dated the whole time, or off and on during that time. And a lot of it involved, when we finished at midnight, the dining room would have box lunches for each of us. And we'd go out on the pier where the boats were tied up, and we'd sit in one of the boats, motorboats, and have our lunch and have fun talking and all, and that was our date. And so I returned to the university, and lo and behold, I get a letter from Lee. I guess I had given him my address, obviously. And lo and behold, the return address is Sing Sing Penitentiary. And I'm thinking, what is this? And my aunt, I think, was going to have a heart attack. And I opened it up, and it was a letter from Lee thanking me for being so nice to him, that it was so unusual for a nice college girl to have someone to date and to be nice to him, that he had ended up in prison because he and Lois's boyfriend had stolen a car from the laundry and taken off down the mountain. And lo and behold, I find out in the letter that his uncle was Pretty Boy Floyd. Oh.
You missed your chance. You missed your chance to go to
I
the big
thought
time.
I would have a heart attack.
Now, so your aunt wasn't opening your mail, obviously.
Not at that point, you know.
So, what was the name of your group? Do you remember?
No, I don't even think we had a name. I don't
Really?
remember having one.
Okay.
Uh,
So you finished up at Tahoe. Now you've seen the big lights. You've been out in the world.
my aunt and uncle drove up and met me and brought me home.
Okay. So this was summer of '45.
Uh-huh.
War's over.
Uh-huh.
And you have one more year to go, or?
I have until December of '46 to go.
So you have another year and a half.
Yeah.
To go. Okay. And at what point does Dad reappear?
The fall of '46.
Okay, so you have a whole another year of school
Well,
before you even see Dad again.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to that in our next session.
You get these dumb stories out of me.
I think they're great. I love you.
I love you, honey.